All right. What's up, guys? So I'm going live real quick just to go over this whole. Oh, God. So much going on, dude. So this new video just dropped, and this one's going to go viral. New York Post, the basement office. These guys are doing a whole bunch of investigations and into this whole Elizondo thing. And this is crazy because Brian Bender.
100%. They buried the origin story because they were afraid it would be perceived as an utter waste of taxpayer money. It would have also further soured the whole effort, given the Bigelow connection to Harry Reid. It was a pork project to investigate voodoo that morphed into UFOs.
And regarding myself and all the Basement Office episodes I've made about ATIP and Elizondo, I was apparently wrong. It wasn't intentional, but in an honest attempt to report the truth about the Pentagon UFO program, I too feel like I was purposely misled.
As for Elizondo,
So this art. If you guys haven't seen this, this is Bombshell. It just rips this whole story wide open. I mean, I've been calling it out from the start. I kind of knew that TTSA was a techno scam and that they weren't going to release anything and that it was just a money making. I just sensed the whole hands of disinfo all over that project from the very start. Good morning, Nate Dogg. Good morning, everyone else. And you can go back to my videos from 2018 and see what we did. We started our own project called Hover Brothers to basically compete with TTSA and show people what the real technology was about and get into, all the real stuff. So I just want to give you my synopsis of just what the heck is going on here. All right. So this looks like the Pentagon snuck a backdoor disinfo honey trap or a honey pot, right? So a honey pot in intelligence, right? I want to teach you guys what a honey pot is in intelligence. And this is key because the honey pot is basically it's designed to look good and tasty, and you pick it up and you eat it, and pretty soon you just get all sticky and you're covered in honey. And that's kind of like this idea of why they use the terminology of the honeypot. And what they did is they snuck this backdoor OSAP stuff with all this Skinwalker Ranch and all this paranormal ghosts and werewolf bullshit into the intelligence bill. And even it's coming out now that Leslie Keene, hid that whole part of the program in her reporting because she wanted to make UFOs look more credible to the general public and get people more interested in the UFO. So all these reporters and stuff in the mainstream were completely misled and thrown for a total loop by this whole, what I just know is got to be a Pentagon operation. Numerous people have called this out. I think it was the techno scam. So they hid the backdoor honeypot into the disinfo trap. And meanwhile, all right, so they started off, TTSA came right out the rip in 2018, and they started off with a techno scam promising declassified advanced technologies and that people who would invest would get part of this program to build a UFO, to build a spaceship, which is, something that we've been trying to do collectively on this channel and through the people in my network for probably the last 15 years or so, at least, is trying to build a team, build up to that, try to get to the knowledge base so that, and the right team together with that knowledge base so that we can get to that point. Now, recently my website went down. I had, it was a catastrophe of errors. First off, I had hired another person to do a lot of my web admin for me, and he kind of fell behind on a lot of that stuff. And also, nobody else even told me my website was down for like 2 months, almost 3 months. And I finally started getting notifications that, hey, man, your websites aren't working, trying to go access this information so I can show new people, and it's not working anymore. So it's like, it just kind of shows me like some of this goes, this information goes through the news cycle and the news feed, and it just drops back into that black hole. But I got to get my websites back online, and I just this needs to be exposed, and I'm glad that this video is made and it's coming out. But these guys even say that they've been misled, and they're like, "Oh, we're sorry we were misled," but you're still being misled. And now this is the next part of the trap, because Lou Elizondo has reached peak popularity right now. If you just anyone who knows, the skeptics are starting to weigh in. They're not going to get any more traction with him, bringing him any further. He's reached peak popularity as the agent he was designed to be. He won't do any interviews with any people in the skeptic community, and that's starting to come out and bite him in the ass, because he's like, he can't keep up with this. He can't keep doing mainstream news interviews, especially now that the mainstream news has just been totally just. They couldn't even get the story right. They showed like they couldn't even get advanced aerial threat identification program right. They kept messing up the A's in the ATIP, and saying aerial, astronautical, aeronautical. They kept messing on that up. They couldn't even get the story right. So if they can't even get the story right, how did then we know that any of these guys got everything right that was going on? And even I didn't get fully what was going on, the full picture of this until now in the aftermath. This is that peak point in the popularity of the agent. You can play a card for only so long, and now at that point everything's starting to fall into place, and we're starting to look back, and people have put all the pieces together, and it's all falling apart. And now they're pulling the trigger to basically make all this UFO stuff about werewolves, ghosts, like this they're mixing it with the Skinwalker Ranch crap, which I've called out from the get-go. I said, this was Camp Hero Montauk Project 2.0, if people are familiar with that. This is CIA MK Ultra Subproject 68, for anyone who's familiar with the MK Ultra Subproject 68. And this is what got Frank Olson. If you guys want to look up Frank Olson, this dude got pushed out of a window of a hotel, and it's still a mysterious unsolved death. They never found out who killed this man. And I believe that the people who killed this man, if we can go back and solve this murder from 1953, you can figure out who the fuck is behind all this shit. I'm sorry. Excuse my language. But this is the key. This is the key to all this, because putting all this disinformation in here from this John Alexander guy, and everything he's been involved in with U.S. Army psychological warfare projects. This is the heart of what is hidden in this, in all this, because the UFO research is real. We have the documents from these programs clearly outlining that there is technology. They researched metamaterials, metallic glass, a whole bunch of other technologies. But seriously, I don't even think that they touched on everything, especially not. They touched on a little bit of stuff, but I think it was just to discredit it. I think this is all going to be used now. They're pulling the trigger on this whole operation. But Colonel, this psychological warfare and all this was predicted by these people. These guys came out in PSYOPs and counterintelligence in numerous places. I pointed out, like Albert Stubblebean, a number of the people that worked on these programs back with the Psi Spies, like Hal Puthoff and stuff, have later been involved in some of these psychological warfare operations. And it's a damn shame that Hal did some real research related to this UFO stuff with the polarizable vacuum approach to general relativity, and his papers on the physics of a polarizable vacuum using pump the Schwinger limit. When you pump a ton of energy into the vacuum, you can break down the dielectric barriers and the Schwinger limit and stuff, and thereby change the speed of light locally, thereby warping space-time. So there was some interesting real research that was done, but what's really happening on the public limit on the public level, which people need to understand, is that this is a psychological operation, and it's designed to cover up a lot of real research that went on. And the real research that went on with Frank Olson, with this MK Ultra subproject 68 stuff, was connected to it was connected to nuclear magnetic resonance, and what one Felix Bloch and Purcell, Mills Purcell, Edward Mills Purcell. These guys won the Nobel Prize in physics in for nuclear magnetic resonance, and what that set off in physics in the 1950s was the next stage of technologies research. This was like Manhattan Project 2.0. I think what we're talking about starting might be Manhattan Project 3 or 4.0, even though we've been, discussing this among the scientific colleagues that I'm working with now. I think we should write a Roosevelt letter. I think we got to sub-opt what's going on what's going to happen next week with our legislators at the Pentagon and the House Select Intelligence Committee, this UAP task force, these new UAP hearings. What's going to happen next week is that two people are going to be allowed to speak, and they're two, experts, intelligence experts from the Pentagon. And I would challenge any of these guys to come on my podcast and have a conversation with me, because I can hang. I may not look like it with my tie-dye shirt and my, dark room and everything right now, but hey, I can hang with I can hang with the questions and the aerospace intelligence and the physics and the science behind all this and the technology, because there's tons of stuff that people aren't being told. Again, I pointed out that I had TD Barnes, the head of projects, special projects out at Area 51, on my show, and I asked him, like, what are these pilots seeing and what's going on? And he said that we have some super advanced spoofing technology, and that whoever is spoofing these pilots is pretty damn good at it. And that's all there is to it. And he says that we have the ability to project alien ships, Jesus, all that stuff in the sky. It's all real. Like, people have been talking about this this code name Project Bluebeam, but it's bigger than that. It's beyond that. It's a whole series of research to do spoofing and create all kinds of illusions, mass illusions. They can create UFOs, all kinds of stuff. In fact, there was some evidence that the Phoenix lights may have even been this one of these groups out of that was doing testing in that area, and they were out of I believe Maryland, Fort Detrick. So interesting, some of the top secret stuff that goes on there. There's also articles on the people posting wormholes, saying wormholes are opening up, and I'm saying, well, that could also be, there's a ton of research that these guys have done on the war zone and the drive. They've been killing it the last 4 years, by the way. Blasting air. Type in blasting air. That's two easy words for the layman. And you'll find, you might need hypersonic in there. Not finding it. There's maybe a bunch of different articles on it. This is the one, though. This one right here. Blasting air in front of hypersonic vehicles with lasers could unlock unprecedented speeds. And this was from 2020, and goes into a ton of the research that started with Lake Marabou at Rensselaer Polytech and morphed into a number of pet projects, including Project Skyvault, and what actually ended up being this next gen hypersonic technology for the, where they supercavitate the air or water in front of the torpedo or aircraft, and are able to reach unprecedented speeds because it literally removes all of the air or water in front of the craft as it flies using directed energy microwaves. Zap, and This is like they calculated the right height for the density. It changes for water or air because of the density of the fluid and the buoyancy of the craft in that fluid. Because you have to, there's a whole science to it. It's pretty freaking cool. So we covered all that. I have all the documents on all that, and this guy's now the director of Jet Propulsion Laboratories. That's who Larry D. James is, in case you're wondering. Current director of JPL, and I'm sure he knows about this technology and where we are and where we're going with it, and that this werewolves and UFOs and ghosts is, this is all a cover up for the technologies that are being researched out at our facilities. I like to remind people that you know nothing about alien technology, and that they'd be so advanced if they have the capability to get here interstellar, then they obviously have warp drive technology, which means they've mastered metamaterials, right? So they clearly have invisibility cloaks if they have metamaterials. So if you're seeing these UFOs, then whatever you're seeing, I guarantee you, unless it's aliens that really want to make contact with you and want you to see them, then it's probably our technology or something else that you're seeing. Almost guaranteed. Keep your eyes on the skies. Keep keep doing this, because this is Air Force intelligence. I love looking at UFO videos and being like, oh well, that's a, that's this or that's that. It's super fun for me as a scientist and as a just a person looking for the proof. It's like, obviously, if they're UFOs, then they're aliens that want you to see them, and if they want you to see them, then why are they just showing themselves to you as an apparent, apparition in the sky? Why aren't they just coming up and making contact with you? And we try to talk to the people like that claim that they've actually made contact with aliens, just to explore that, man. And it's hard because there's not a lot of evidence or proof for this kind of stuff. And the stuff that we do find is that evidence or proof, like that artifact that was just dropped from a UFO in 1952 in the Denmark case, which is the first example of UFOs being recovered. UFO materials being actually recovered and studied. But yeah, this all started with this MK Ultra project, sub project 68. Back to that, and Edward Mills Purcell, and Edward Mills Purcell was hired to set up the CIA's Project Rainbow, which was the mapping of the electromagnetic frequency spectrum. And when they mapped the electromagnetic frequency spectrum, they wanted to see how every single different frequency of electromagnetic wave interacted, and also like signals too, like varying frequencies and varying amplitudes of different signals, and how that affected every type of material, every type of electromagnetic, and they measured electromagnetic responses in materials just to kind of get a super in-depth understanding of this entire spectrum and how it all worked and the innate physics of it. Because then the next obvious question is like, well, can we use electromagnetic waves to alter brain waves? And can we, use it for mind control and, all these other sci-fi kind of Marvel comics based, not Marvel, sorry for saying Marvel, but any kind of comic book based, interdimensional kind of thinking. And by the way, there's no evidence for interdimension. So I had an argument earlier in the week about maybe these are interdimensional beings. Interdimensional beings. What does that mean? What is an interdimensional being? Well, in the science of imaginary science and Star Trek, it talks about examples of them, but there's no evidence here of actual interdimensional beings existing. And I challenge anyone who wants to go and look this up. They should probably research and do some reading in the literature of these guys. So until you've read the literature on Sophus Lee, all of Henry Poincaré, and you're familiar with Poincaré's work, And you're familiar with the work of, guys like Oliver Heaviside. How many books have you read by these guys, or how much of their literature have you read or are familiar with? And if you've never heard these names before and haven't read their literature, then you have no effing business discussing interdimensional beings or interdimensional anything with any of us. So you can go back to your place. Thank you. And that will be the end of that. But yeah, so this is all psychological warfare bullcrap from really smart people in the Pentagon that want to convince you that they have mind control. They can remote view inside your bedroom and watch you having sex, like they can't, looking through your cameras and watching you masturbate, or whatever the heck you do. Weird stuff, I know, but this is all to get inside your head and to mess with you psychologically, and it's just it's part of their operations. And I think this is them pulling the trigger on all this stuff right now, because the Lou Elizondo story is at peak right now. It's finally like all falling apart, and now they're just coming out with all this werewolf and Skinwalker Ranch crap, which again relates back to why Frank Olson was killed, because Felix Bloch and Edward Mills Purcell set up this Project Rainbow for the CIA to start looking into electromagnetic frequencies. And they had this whole facility out at Camp Hero on Montauk, which the whole Stranger Things was based on this facility and the research that was actually done here during the 60s and 70s, following this 1950s amazing discovery of nuclear magnetic resonance. And so they experimented with feeding people different isotopes of materials, and then, or feeding animals, different elements or, metals or radioactive isotopes that would, be carriers for signals that they could beam into the biological tissues, and then study the responses and stuff. And that was the whole other sub project of this, was electronic warfare technology and psychological operations, program that has been run under the intelligence agencies, and like the CIA, for example. So it's gone in back and forth throughout, the Cold War, with a lot of that remote viewing stuff and these projects that were related to Skinwalker Ranch and stuff. And I think that when Montauk was shut down, because Montauk started getting so hot and got such a bad rep, being this like mysterious base out the end of Long Island, and all the natives on Long Island started, spreading these rumors, and people started going and digging around and investigating, that they needed a place that they could move this whole electronic warfare research bullshit study to, that they could write it all off and as werewolves, and so they needed somewhere with local legends that were like ridiculous and crazy. And so they found Skinwalker Ranch, interviewed some natives, and hyped it up, spent years hyping this up as this paranormal scary place with ghosts and werewolves and portals with Bigfoots and all this other crap. And in reality, I bet you anything that another update is that Travis Taylor, the scientist out there at Skinwalker Ranch, who declined my request for an interview, thereby proving that he's probably a shill. Travis Taylor got a heckler got thrown out of MUFON, PA, apparently. So I was supposed to go down to MUFON, and for other reasons I could not go, and I'm sorry for that. It's Mother's Day and my birthday week, and I got a bunch of crap going on. But this Travis Taylor guy, he went down to MUFON. He was at MUFON, apparently. Mark told me that this guy, a heckler, got arrested and thrown out for asking him about what they were digging under Skinwalker Ranch. So my whole thing is, if you're going to project this stuff out of the ground at a place like Skinwalker Ranch, it would make a lot of sense to have a central facility, like where you could set up a drilling rig, a tower, and you could do lateral drilling. So there's ways to do lateral drilling where it was actually done in Kuwait, the Kuwait, the Bush was setting up this whole thing in Kuwait where they were drilling underneath Kuwait and sideways into Iraqi oil fields and tapping Iraqi oil. And that was the whole reason why Iraq invaded Kuwait, prompting Operation Desert Storm and that whole Bush created war back during, the Reagan administration and George Bush one's administration as well. So the horizontal drilling has been around since at least, then it was probably known about before, the 1980s when Bush and the Kuwaiti American Oil Company did that in Kuwait, thereby prompting up, the whole first Iraqi invasion and war in the Middle East, which I won't get into. But this horizontal drilling, if you were to set up a platform and do a whole bunch of horizontal drilling underneath Skinwalker Ranch, and you could bury some kind of cables with transmitters underneath the whole field out there, and you could project some pretty fucking crazy shit if you had the right technology to, that's a crop field, by the way. They have these long irrigation things. Those are wheels, and these are water sprinklers that go around on a big thing that irrigate the whole field, in case you're wondering. Yeah, this whole facility out at Skinwalker Ranch, and it fit the profile, man. It had all these, paranormal history and stuff going on, and I think that MK Ultra Subproject 68 and all that Camp Hero 2.0 is Skinwalker Ranch. They moved all that stuff out here, and they're testing all their projection technology where they can now project Bigfoots, and they can project ghosts, and they can project werewolves or your worst friggin' nightmares. They'll figure out what it is, and they'll mess with you psychologically, because that's what the U.S. Army Psychological Warfare Division is paid to research and do. And that's where the tax dollars really went with all this. And it's sad that, Green Street, that the basement office is getting misled more. You're just admitted that you got misled, and you're still not connecting the dots on all this crap. So let's get it straight. TTSA started with a techno scam, right? They wanted to build this UFO craft, this thing. That's what we were promised. That didn't happen. They raised 100 times the amount that, we've probably spent for our nonprofit venture, exploring these technologies and actually interviewing the scientists who worked on them and rebuilding our own tabletop replications to test some of the technologies and try to build prototypes. They've done absolutely nothing with the money and have nothing to show for it. And yet what happened is that I'm going and arguing this with people like Mick West on Twitter, and I'm getting people like, oh, let me guess, you just need more money to get your anti-gravity stuff off the ground. That's what you need, is just more money. I was like, no, that's exactly what they're trying to set up. That's exactly what they did. This techno scam came out where TTSA raised all this money, promised alien technology, and then they showed it everyone it was all a bunch of crap. So that way, now when alien scientists and all his friends want to get together with a bunch of scientists and try to develop this technology and bring it out on our own, they're going to get labeled as, oh, you're a techno scam. And that's exactly what happened with Hover Brothers. When we launched Hover Brothers right after to compete with TTSA, it's exactly what happened with the Hover Brothers website. And we raised about 10 to 15,000, and then I ended up giving all the donations back to everybody because I didn't want to get sued or in any kind of trouble. I don't have Pentagon backing, and it kind of boggles my mind why the SEC and no one's investigated TTSA and brought action and what's really going on. I heard they just offered another round of investments for the company and stuff, even though they were like 37 million in debt or something. It's just, I don't get what's going on there. It just looks like there's more to this. They also admitted that the Pentagon they were hiding from the Pentagon what the true nature of these programs were. So they hid this whole nature of this UFOs and werewolves, and that was the shocking truth. And that was all hidden apparently from the people who oversaw this at the Pentagon. So it just proves that they can have these stovepiped operations, or these pork projects where even the people in charge don't even know really what's going on in the program. It's just a goddamn mess, this whole thing. And we were promised this techno scam came up, so this is why I think it was done. It was to prevent, independent researchers from gaining, funds or starting their own company, or pursuing this type of technology independently. So the government has to be the only one to keep dibs on it. They throw it all under the rug publicly to make it all look like it's all a bunch of a scam with Bigfoot and UFO and all this other stuff. And that's exactly what's going to go on in the next couple of months as all this stuff slowly starts to come out. But it's gonna be slow to start. And in any case, I'm just I have to get going here soon. I wanted to point out that the second thing that they did was this Adams project. If anyone was paying attention, this Adams project, the Atom project with Elizondo, which you can't even find anything of Elizondo. Everything you can find on the Adams project there's now a new movie that came out, and it's a science fiction. So that's all that comes out now, because they decided to name this new science fiction flick the Atom Project, which is a dumb thing because there's so many Atom projects. It's just like, it's clearly was set up as part of this TTSA scam, because they got massive headlines early on. All these people reported the story, couldn't even get the name of the ATIP program right, or any of these facts, and they just ran with the story. This Chris Mellon guy standing in front of a screen showing a #1 party balloon, promoting this stuff. He's another big Skinwalker Ranch guy, connected to this whole crew, of what looks like a program that was, I say, this is something. This is on intelligence on another level, man. This was so well thought out and planned out. If this wasn't an intel op that was run, it boggles my mind, because they went and started this Atom project early on, and they said, hey, anyone who has pieces of UFOs, send them to us, and they went in this massive collection effort from the public, and tons of people, including like Linda Moulton Howe and all these others, were sending in UFO pieces to them, and they basically took all this UFO information and gave it over to the US military, and that's they gave it to the US Army, of all things, that US Army CRADA. And I'm sorry, someone keeps calling my phone and won't stop calling. So I'm getting a little distracted. But this cooperative research agreement that they signed was with the US Army, and they said that they needed to go with the US Army because nobody else had the scientific equipment to analyze these pieces of UFO debris, which completely takes the heat off of the US Air Force, which is doing all this research. It's like a whole misdirection plot from the top, and I'm glad that people are finally putting some of the pieces together, but there's more pieces, and there's more pieces that need to be put together, and it needs to go back and be thoroughly investigated. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching, and guys, have a great day, and keep digging into this, and keep hitting the buttons, because they're calling all these people out, and they're spreading all this information, be like, oh, don't listen to these people, and they're trying all this character assassination and credibility assassination is going on, and that's all it is a big distraction, because they're trying to hold out this Lou Elizondo character as long as they can, man. And I challenge this dude, come on a podcast and debate any of us or the people that have quite real questions for you. And you're going to watch this guy. This is all in self-destruct mode. And what's going on right now is it all needs to get exposed, and we need to be more valiant than effort to. I almost want to go down to wherever these committees are taking place and stand outside with like a big sign or something to draw awareness. This is just crazy that this disinformation and this psychological warfare crap is just taking over, and there's no evidence for any of it. And if any of you have evidence for remote viewing, just like do one, like let's set up an experiment and we'll do it. And like it should work every single time with accuracy. And there's a reason that the CIA doesn't, hire remote viewers, that they're still using conventional intelligence collection methods, because real intelligence, like actionable hard intelligence, is not gathered through a bunch of psychic spooks sitting there dreaming shit up in their mind, dude. And I'm sorry that you've been misled by all this anti-scientific nonsense. Y'all need to be more skeptical. Y'all need to be on your toes. And I challenge any of you, prove me wrong with the evidence. Prove it wrong with the evidence. And that's all there is to it. And this whole thing with, did Elizondo run the program? No, he didn't. It was this other guy, James Lutansky. And then he writes this, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon book, and where all the truth comes out. This is them pulling the trigger on this disinfo op. And it's just, I'm starting to piece it together more and more that this was all very well thought out years in advance and dreamed up by some of the smartest people in the intelligence community, and that are behind this. And it's just exactly what happened in 1988 and 89 with Bob Lazar and John Lear, that they targeted John Lear, I think, hard. And whether Bob Lazar was hired before or after, he was brought into what I think was an intelligence operation for sure. And it was all to hide the stealth program, because the B2s, and I got to get the I think I have the thing for this, but the B2s during B2 production, Plant 42, Site 4. So Site 4 was where they were making all this. That was where they were running the stealth program out in Palmdale, California, and they wanted to distract everybody on the real issue. And here it is. This is the key clincher. This is from Jim Goodall. He posted this in February 20th, 2016. And right here, it says Site 4, Plant 42, Site 4, Site 4, the B. And Site 4 was the real facility where they were building the stealth program. And it was so super secret that they had disinformation programs to cover it up and make everyone think that there was aliens and UFOs out there and stuff. And that's what I think Bob Lazar was. That's what I think he was connected with, this whole Richard Doty program. The fact that those guys came out with that UFO TV live, 1988. It aired right before and talked about UFOs and the government Bible, the cover up. There's a whole program. This aired right before Bob Lazar, and it has, talks about the UFO cover up, the government Bible. It talks about the Zeta Reticuli, aliens, a number of elements that Bob Lazar used in his stories, and said that he was debriefed on all this intelligence. You can go back and piece it all together. It came from Billy Meyer first, with that Billy Meyer craft. Billy Meyer with his UFO, that sport model, same craft. But Billy Meyer, I think, copied it from Otis Carr and the XTC, right? Or the OTC X1. Sorry, I always get the name of this thing wrong. But Otis Carr was a saucer investor that raised a bunch of money back in the 50s, promising, to build flying saucer technology, and didn't actually deliver on anything. Yeah, thanks for the super sticker and NeuroStream. Yeah, thank you again for the super chats, guys. We had a couple in here earlier on. I appreciate that, and I'm sorry to the guys. I'm going to be doing a live with Mark, I think, later tonight from the Alien Con, MUFON PA. Sorry, not Alien Con, but MUFON PA down there. And Dr. Fox, yeah, man, hit me up in my email, and I want to. I'm sorry I didn't make it down there, but we might be going down. We might be trying to figure out. So the lab on Sunday, there's some experiments that are being done. So I'll keep you guys updated on what's going on with that. I'm going to try to live stream that or do some of my own experiments, but I don't know. It's another interesting thing with the alchemists and this eclipse and some of the experiments that they actually want to try. So doing real science, not just, raising money to build crap, but we're actually, experimenting with a lot of this stuff and showing how the technology failed in the past, was a techno scam or didn't work, and saving the people the trouble of falling into those same traps themselves, so that we can pursue, real physics knowledge and real anti-gravity technology on the next gen level, which again is being done at U.S. Air Force, not the U.S. Army, where Lou Elizondo handed those pieces saying that they're the only ones who could have, they're the only ones who could have. No, there's classified work being done right at Wright State at the ultra-fast photonics lab, and it's connected. They have plenty of terahertz equipment to do all the tests that you need right there at Wright-Patterson, right off Wright-Patterson at Wright State University. So again, bring this to the scientific community, bring it to the real skeptics, and let the cards fall where they may, and stop, hiding crap, because this is dumb. We're done with it. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Martin, Alien Girl, Amy, what's up? Martin, Kung Fu. You guys are great. I love you all. You're the best. Thank you so much, Esoteric, and everyone else, Nate, for sure. Thanks, guys. Peace out, and have a great weekend.